Hello and welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for Rocket Squad, and with me today is Joe Monday himself, my good friend Benny Cruz, the Toonie Tenor. Say hi.
My name is Joe Monday. My friend over here is Shmoe Tuesday. We are two nerds talking about cartoons. We are Anthony's Animation Talk. And we need to start doing the nods like Homer and Principal Skinner over the vigilante, because actually the song I just sang, I think it's written in my contract, my Simpsons reference per video.
Any sign of the burglar yet?
No, Joe.
How's that?
It's his job.
How's that?
He's a burglar.
It's actually relevant to this cartoon.
It is indeed.
Ta-da!
It is, 100%. So I guess I'm Shmoe Tuesday, so there you go. You know? And if you put it together, it's Joe Schmo. Hence the reference here. That was already a trivia, and I'm way ahead on the trivia on that. But just a few bits of info to get underway. So as mentioned, this is a review for Rocket Squad, released on the 10th of March 1956. It's the 764th in the series, and it's directed by, who else? Chuck Jones. Currently, it's on DVD on the Looney Tunes Golden Collection Volume 3 DVD set, and I have a link below to that set. It was remastered in high definition, though, so hopefully one day this will come out on a Blu-ray disc, because this looks stunning. It really does. I'll put an updated note on the bottom if it does ever come out on Blu-ray. It's under copyright, though, so I can't show you the full thing here on YouTube, otherwise the video just gets blocked. But in case you haven't seen this one, it's a parody of a few classic TV shows that I will get into in just a moment, involving, well, what else? Crime. So you've got Porky and Daffy. They're in another television parody, and they're out to essentially solve a crime, and we'll go through that as we go through it. Right, Monday?
Indeed. By the way, this cartoon came out exactly 32 years before I was born. It's on my birthday, yay.
And it's Mario Day too, well before Mario even
Indeed.
existed. So there you go.
I think Shigeru Miyamoto was a little boy at the time, so definitely no Mario yet.
No, definitely not. Although he would have watched a lot of Popeye. Now there's an obscure reference for you, because he did. But
he did.
In terms of trivia, so the big one, yes, it's based off of a TV show at the time, and the title is based off of Racket Squad, a TV show that's all about tennis rackets. No, kid, of course, it's about racketeering. But unlike a lot of title puns, though, this short actually parodies what that kind of show was as well, although this leans more towards Dragnet. Dragnet was a crime show, and it will even start off with saying, ladies and gentlemen, the story you're about to see is true. In Dragnet, it says it's the names that have been changed to protect the innocent, and here it's the drawings that have been changed. So it's a smack bang on parody right there. And for those who aren't aware, Dragnet, as I mentioned, crime television series, and it was based off a radio series initially. The star of the show, Jack Webb, also created it, and that's actually who Daffy Duck is parodying. So the whole idea is that the term is Dragnet. So it's like coordinated measures for getting criminals or suspects. As I mentioned, Jack Webb was the star and creator, and he played Joe Friday, hence the parody of Monday and Tuesday, because, you know, you had to do that, don't you, right?
Indeed.
Yeah. And Porky plays a parody of Ben Alexander, who was on the show as his partner, Officer Frank Smith, and he would just do a lot of the quips in the show. A lot of that is definitely represented here. Even if you don't like this short, you can't deny that this is a pitch-perfect parody of those type of shows. Now, have you seen any of those shows, like any episodes of Dragnet, whether it's original or the reboots later on, or even the movie with Dan Aykroyd? I mean, it's Dan Aykroyd. You would have watched it, right?
Well, apparently I'm beholden to Dan Aykroyd because of my love of Ghostbusters, but I didn't know that. Dragnet itself, you guys have Nick at Night over in Australia, right?
At what point we had it, yes.
Okay, so Nick at Night started in 1985, so a few years before I was born. But even as a kid, Nickelodeon eventually would transition to Nick at Night, and they would have, at that time, a lot of shows from the 50s and the 60s. I remember seeing shows like I Love Lucy and The Munsters, how appropriate, because Halloween's later this week. I Dream of Jeannie, stuff like that. The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis. And one of the shows that I do remember seeing from back then was Dragnet. I mean, definitely the theme song is very iconic. It ran from 1951 to 1959. I remember seeing episodes in color. So, I mean, this one is from 51 to 59. Color TVs were not prominent back then. but I do know that there were some episodes that were made in color.
Yep, it actually came out with a separate series in the 1960s. So those are probably what you saw.
Okay. Oh, I'm seeing right here. It says 1967 to 1970. Yeah, that seems about right. So I'm pretty sure that's the one that I used to see on Nick at Night back in the day. Just mainly the theme song. I remember seeing the disclaimer, we've protected the innocent, and the cop bag just shows up. This was going back early to mid 1990s. I was a little kid, so obviously I wasn't sitting there and being intrigued by a crime drama. But the 4-note theme song, bum, ba-dun, dun. If you're old enough, you can just already know it. Show it is based off of that.
And it's also your theme song when you actually walk into a classroom teaching, right?
Yeah. I was actually thinking of the Undertaker theme from wrestling, but hey.
Depends on your mood, right?
The late 90s version of the Undertaker theme. The Ministry of Darkness for the, hey, this is Manny's professional wrestling talk. Welcome.
When did you first see this short? I've seen this short a few times, but it was never a staple for me growing up. But yeah, did you see this one often?
Not really. I mean, the beginning with Daffy doing the narration and Porky correcting him, I remember those parts, but like some of the stuff in the middle, I don't remember. Obviously, the ending with the punchline, I do remember that part. I probably first saw this one on Cartoon Network back in the day because I don't remember seeing this on Nickelodeon or on the Bugs Bunny and Tweety show. So seeing this again, I kind of felt like, oh, I didn't notice that before. But it's literally just the beginning and the ending are the only parts that I remember. It's like Dragnet. Like I remember the beginning with the intro and then the closing credits where I think they repeat the theme song with the credits rolling. So just like the cartoon, how appropriate.
I would argue that this short actually works better when you watch it as an adult. I mean, the kids can obviously watch it. I'm sure they get a kick out of it, especially with all the visuals and a lot of silly gags in it. But I think this one is definitely more adult geared. That's what it feels like to me. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, and some people think, especially in the Looney Tunes franchise, like adult as in like inappropriate. It's just there's really not that much of slapstick or anything like that. And with Ted Pierce, he relies heavily on TV parodies, especially when he worked with Bob McKimson. And it's like, I'm trying to think, if I never knew what Dragnet was, if I was a little kid again in 2025 and watching this cartoon with absolutely no context to the original show or anything, I guess that's another thing too, because you and I guess we're old enough that we were still familiar, not just with Dragnet, but with cop shows and cop movies in general. The cliches and the tropes, the hard-boiled veteran, the cigar smoking, the tough guy image. I don't know, usually like big cities in the United States like New York or Philadelphia or Detroit. Like, I don't think that a kid now would really understand or appreciate the context of the cartoon itself. Like, what do you think?
Because of those older shows not being really shown much anymore, they are shown on a few outlets as far as I'm aware, but not very often that a young person would end up going out of the way to find this kind of stuff. So when they look at something like this, I reckon they'll still enjoy it. They'll just see it as some sort of a cop show in space, and that's pretty much it. But I do think adults would respond to this better, especially the much older ones who would have actually known of those shows it's parodying. I reckon we can take a look at this short from start to finish, and yeah, we can go through some of the references as well. Starting with the fact we're in space, obviously. I mean, the title is Rocket Squad, of course, but I do like his initial narrative, and yes, the TV shows at the time would actually have narration in it, usually by the main character. So in this case, it's the Milky Way, a nice galaxy, 875 billion trillion people live here. So just his delivery, just so deadpan, it's perfect.
This is the Milky Way, a nice galaxy. 875 billion trillion people live here. Yes, it's a nice place to live. It's my job to keep it that way. I'm a space cop. My name's Monday. My partner's name is Tuesday. He always follows me.
The Earth's population has increased since the 50s, 8.2 billion people. And Daffy, what did he say, trillion or something? He's thinking more of the American debt.
Ooh.
I'll be here all week.
Ooh. But one thing you'll notice with the narration all throughout the short, and this is a wonderful parody, some of these shows, and I'm not saying necessarily that's an issue with Dragnet, but you've got a lot of copycat shows around. As soon as something becomes popular, you've got a lot of copycat shows. It still happens to this day. Everyone copies each other, right? But a lot of them tend to over-narrate. And you'll find all throughout this short, Daffy just saying, that this minute this happens, then that minute something else happens. That's something that might go over a lot of people's heads, but that's really a parody of how they would over-narrate things on those shows.
With Wednesday, January 23rd, 10:26 p.m. It's 10:28. Like I said, it was 10:28 p.m.
Well, I haven't seen too many of those older shows to get a sense of it, like with the over narration, because I guess my frame of reference is mainly Dragnet. But now that you say it like that, it's like, yeah, literally the entire cartoon. Obviously, the rule of storytelling is show, don't tell. But I think Daffy's narration, literally every single thing, it heightens the absurdity of the parody itself, because also at the same time, it's not just Daffy talking, like you actually see what's going on in the cartoon at the same time.
We see in the back of Porky and Daffy there, you'll see references Robot to Taylor, Rabbit to Robert.
You got to keep that in.
I'm winning today.
Rabbit Taylor.
Rabbit, yeah.
Taylor. He was a very famous actor.
That's right, played by Bugs
and
Bunny.
And a spokesman for Carrots.
That's a parody of actor Robert Taylor, and he would even star in his own TV series involving crime called The Detectives, not long after. But look at the animation of this opening, just how perfectly synchronized it is. I mean, that takes a lot of skill. I mean, that just kills me every time. In fact, the entire show, I just love how deadpan their expressions are the entire time. It doesn't really change much. There's no massive amounts of shock or awe or anything. It's just that deadpan the entire time as well. It's fantastic. There is a crime of malicious mischief.
We were returning from a routine investigation in the Big Dipper area. A 712. Malicious mischief. School children had blown the ring off Saturn. When will parents learn to keep uranium out of their children's reach? Yeah, when?
What is malicious mischief? I don't know. But they were returning from a routine investigation of school children blew up one of the rings off of Saturn. When will parents learn to keep uranium out of their children's reach?
12. Malicious mischief. School children had blown the ring off Saturn. When will parents learn to keep uranium out of their children's reach? Yeah, when?
Because, back in the 50s, there was a whole thing about the atomic age, and people didn't think too much about radioactivity and that sort of thing. And it's only now when you look at that, you go, okay, kids playing with radioactive stuff? Okay.
When I heard that line, I guess I'm thinking it more from a modern context when it's like, when will parents learn to keep uranium away from kids? And my mind kind of went a little bit more dark in current modern times. The first thing I thought of is like, when will parents learn to keep guns away? And I'm sorry, but that's the first thing that popped in my head. Like, I know they were trying to be funny in this cartoon, but me watching this almost 70 years later and just thinking of all the insanity with that particular problem here in the States, I guess I made that humorous line. I took it a little bit too deep.
But that's pretty much what it all is. It was a more instant time where the atomic age and atomic energy were going to change things until it didn't. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic entirely.
And probably my dad was one of those. I mean, my father was a toddler at the time when this cartoon came out, so maybe he was playing with uranium back then.
Who knows?
Who knows? That might explain a lot about him.
It might explain a lot about some people from that generation, but I'll say no more,
That's Anthony and Mandy's baby boomer talk.
That's right. It's like the okay boomer talk, that's what we'll call it. But we then see that they get a call from the police chief. Just the whole subdued nature of the animation and the expressions. There's a whole less is more. They're really playing it up here. Porky's holding the actual microphone that Daffy talks into, and even he has to finish this sentence. It's just so pitch perfect. One of the signs that you will see is the GI resale, the open house, and that is a parody of the whole thing involving returned servicemen, how they were able to get home loans. So it's kind of a weird thing. I've gone from pointing out this reference to shorts involving people coming back from World War II, but now I'm doing it for people coming back from the Korean War at the time. And once we get to Cool Cat, we'll be talking about people coming back from Vietnam War, and instead of getting a home loan, they get Cool Cat.
That seems like a pretty fair trade.
They watch a Cool Cat short, and then they'll say, send me back to Vietnam.
It's also cool, just obviously for nerds like us who are well-versed in the history of these shorts. And again, something we spoke about prior to the recording, these cartoons started in the early 30s. I mean, the people who worked on them were a decade removed from the end of World War I, and then obviously all the advancements of the 20s and the advent of sound on film, and then soon the Great Depression or whatever. So you had that huge event in history, and then obviously you get into the 40s with World War II and just all that. And like you just said, the Korean War and just all the changes that happened in the 50s here in the States with the baby boomer generation. And then the way that they present these cartoons, like it's a mixed bag. If you watch it on Tubi or if you watch it on MeTV Tunes or Tune In With Me, it's like you can watch a 60s short and then followed by a 30s one and then followed by a 50s one, whatever. And because all 1,000 of these shorts are mixed up in different orders as opposed to watching them chronologically, it's cool to think like, oh, this Foghorn Leghorn cartoon was coming out during the years of Dwight Eisenhower. If they go to like a Merry Melody from the 30s, it's like, oh, this was when FDR started his presidency and the New Deal and all that. I was telling somebody a few days ago, obviously these cartoons, they hold up for the most part really well. They're works of art, they're comedy masterpieces. But the more that you dig into it and you learn about the history, you learn about the trivia, not just of the studio, the guys and gals who worked at Termite Terrace, but in my case, all the musical stuff that plays into it. And like in this cartoon, for example, if you want to learn more about the rise of television, this is a good cartoon to watch because, you know, in the 50s, that's when TVs exploded. And I always see these cartoons as a nice transition point, or any piece of media when you think about it, as a gateway to everything else that was going on in the world. Art doesn't exist in a vacuum. You know, it's a reflection of the time it was created. And with these Warner Brothers shorts, it's like you have nearly 40 years of American and world history to glean from.
Exactly. And this is also reflective of space age too. That's why you see a lot of things like this in the 1950s, because there was a whole thing about not just the atomic age, but going to the moon and that. Oh, and westerns, but we don't get that here, of course. But you generally get that kind of stuff around this time. We then see them returning to headquarters. I've always loved how the rockets land. I mean, that's one of the things I always remember when thinking about this short. Just how everything is so ultra modern, but then you'll have situations like that where it's just dumb in a good way with the parachute, how it just lands down. And I've always liked the backgrounds here. You got the Aero Farms milk from suntanned cows.
That line cracked me up too.
You know, it's just quaint. It really is, in a good way. I love it. You'll notice that some of these backgrounds have been lifted from Duck Dodgers, and that was actually by Maurice Noble, whereas this one is done by Ernie Nordley, but he seems to ape a lot of what Maurice Noble actually did. I mean, yes, some of it's lifted, sure, but honestly, if you don't look at the credits, you might mistake this for Maurice Noble.
You know what? I didn't even bother to look at the credits for the backgrounds. I was under the assumption it was Maurice Noble as well. And speaking of the backgrounds, I mean, like you said, the space age and that futuristic vibe and whatever. And some of the backgrounds in this short, I mean, I haven't seen Duck Dodgers in a while, so I have to revisit it. Or like any time that they go into space, like with Marvin Martian and all that other stuff. There was one or two backgrounds in this cartoon that gave me vibes of the Jetsons. I don't know if you felt the same way. You know, obviously the Jetsons came out in the 60s, but like thinking maybe somebody at Hanna-Barbera saw this cartoon and took inspiration from the backgrounds of this particular show. Or Porky and Daffy's rocket ship, like the way it's designed and everything. I was like, yeah, it's definitely giving me Jetsons vibes.
There'll be no doubt there'll be some influence and some crossover with this sort of stuff for sure. But yeah, definitely reminded me of Jetsons with the high buildings where the actual poles underneath are attached to, well, nothing. That's what it looks like. But visually it's great.
Yeah.
But you know what else is great? It's footage here, which I'm assuming this is you walking to your job. I like this shot of, you got Porky and Daffy, they're walking, but it's just their feet that's animated. And it's done in time to the music like that.
Oh, yeah. That shuffling animation. I didn't remember that in this cartoon, and it made me laugh. I was like, oh, wow, that's a really nice visual gag. It's like a Chuck Jones thing to do. It made me think of Marvin Martian in particular, like the way he walks.
And I just like the way they look in terms of their clothes, that everything is just stuck in the 1950s aesthetic clothes-wise, but everything else is futuristic.
Well, they always say what's old is new again.
So we see that they go inside the tube, which takes them to the different departments, and they just get knocked around. And this is a great piece of design work here. Just all these colors, they just really pop, especially in this restoration. Even though that restoration was done decades ago, it still looks fantastic.
Indeed. You probably said already, but was this on the Golden Collection?
3, yeah, volume 3.
3, okay.
And that set had a whole disc of Hollywood and TV parodies, which is great. They get knocked out of that tube and they get taken out. And this is the only time that they look different, but they still have the same expression, even though they look so disheveled the way that they do. And what does Porky say here?
Isn't the modern science wonderful? People used to have to use their stairs.
Isn't modern science wonderful? Before, people would have to use the stairs.
That scene right there, where they're in the tube, it reminded me of the pneumatic tubes that, like when my parents used to go to the bank back in the day. You know, obviously you still do it too, like if you go to certain drive-through ATM or bank tellers. And then, you know, you put your check in, and I always used to fascinate me. You would see the tube get sucked in, and then it would go to the teller, and then they would do the transaction. and put it back. And I just thought when I was a kid, that was the coolest thing in the world. But also the tube itself reminded me of the mutagen canister from Ninja Turtles. So it's like, it was a win-win for me.
The next scene kills me, though, just of how ridiculous it is, where they go all the way to this police station just for him to actually go on a video phone again. And it's even got the rotary dial at the very bottom. So again, even though it's in the future, it's still like it's back in the 1950s in a lot of elements. But we see the police chief there, and the chief just happens to be behind him anyway. He goes, "Oh, we need to talk."
10:52. Back at the old desk, waiting for a call from the chief. Half a cup's life is spent in waiting. 10:53. The chief called.
Joe, come right over, please. I need your help immediately.
Right.
That made me laugh because that's literally like some stuff that happens nowadays where you could be right next to somebody and you're on your phone, you text them or you send them a meme or whatever, or like you're FaceTiming somebody or it's like you're right next to each other in the same room. Like, just get up and talk to the person. But obviously you're in the middle of a meeting and you're like texting your buddy from across the table. So that's what it reminded me of a little bit, that scene right there.
I've worked in offices where it's just maybe someone's just 2 cubicles down, and it's just dumb when they can just walk over and ask you something instead of doing the chat functionality. You've got the narration saying one thing, but the police chief, he's breaking down, he's blowing his nose. Just, again, as you say, chef's kiss. I love the contrast. And it's even just, kissing Daffy's feet when he actually agrees. But this is also another great example of Daffy's just about a still image, except for when he takes out the cigarette once, and that's it. That whole shot of Daffy is just his arm animated once, taking a puff of a cigarette, but then you got the lively animation of the actual police chief there when he looks all happy and sad and all that. Just great scene.
Chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss, as you like to say. Or as you'll also say, great stuff.
Great stuff. Great
stuff. Great stuff. They report to the scene of the crime, and we see the evidence gathering machine. And it's interesting, again, Acme is still around in the future. I mean, he was in the future on one foggy evening. So why wouldn't Acme still be around in this future, right? Many centuries later.
I was like, oh, wow, looks like Acme was not the victim of a corporate merger or takeover. Or maybe Acme is a subsidiary of Warner, Disney, Paramount, Universal, Galactus, Conglomerate, Incorporated. What I'm just literally throwing it. But or, I don't know, who knows? By that time, maybe Disney will control everything.
But in a moment, you'll notice that Acme doesn't control everything, and I'll let you know in just a tick. But I do like the design of that evidence-gathering machine. I've always get a kick out of these 1950s robots and how they're designed and how they actually function, too. There's a logic to it, and it works, even though in real life it'd be stupid. But, it just looks great in animation. But they return to the station with their clues, and they put it in a UNIVAC clue machine. It's interesting that they put it in what's called the Ajax crypto analyzer. So I guess the 2 big companies at the time, you got Acme and you've got Ajax, because they use Ajax a few times in these shorts.
Maybe those are the 2 huge conglomerates of the future, Acme and Ajax.
Yeah, it's just them. That's it.
And nobody else.
Just heed the warning. Make sure you remove all chicken bones from the evidence. Even if the evidence is chicken bones, you got to remove it. So you got to do that.
Chicken.
Yes, making me hungry. But the only reason I got you onto this short, of course, is the fact that a music sheet is created by this UNIVAC clue machine. And UNIVAC, by the way, is the first computer that was made, like in 1951. So they're really making this computer run well into the future, haven't they?
It's funny now that you say that UNIVAC is still working to this day. It kind of makes me think of things that were built years ago, if you can mess around with it, whatever, and it still works. Like, I have a reel-to-reel tape player that I haven't gotten up and running again, but I'm hoping I can, whereas you buy something now and it'll break easily. You have to do a software update, and again, it's bricked, or was it planned obsolescence? And yeah, you could have something that was built in the 40s, and if you know how to finagle with it, it can still work to this day. And who knows, maybe there are some UNIVACs that are still working, or maybe in particular the UNIVAC player piano, which I never knew existed in the first place.
I've actually got an original Game Boy, and that still works perfectly. The music sheet is placed inside the piano, which pretty much plays the only song cue, really. I know that they mentioned there was one other one, but you and I couldn't hear it. But what's the song that comes out of this machine?
We identified the name of the song, Mother Macree.
Mother Macree. But it sounds like your nerd voice.
Well, I think my nerd voice is based off of Daffy. And speaking of this scene right here, I wish I had a drawing of Porky and Daffy when Mother Macree is being played, and especially their poses. Porky with a cigarette in his hand is a pocket, and Daffy leaning against the machine. I really like the way that they're drawn there.
Yeah, because it's different. Clearly different animators here. I'm not sure which one, but
Yeah.
again, they still got the same deadpan expression as in the entire shorts. Jones definitely went all in with the look in this one. It's fantastic.
We identified the name of that song, Mother Macree.
So according to the cue sheet, when I was watching it too, I usually like to watch the cartoon first, and then I'll pick out stuff, and then I would go back to the cue sheet and look at it, and I'm like, this sounds almost entirely like Milt Franklin original stuff. Continuing on with one of my goals in life is to get a chance to look at the actual like cue sheets, because I know I've seen some pictures of them. Eventually, I'd like to find the archives and dig through them. We're getting to this period in the 50s, especially when Milt Franklin takes over, is I see and I've noticed that he does a lot more of his own original music. It's obviously still in the vein of Carl Stalling, but I feel that Franklin does more original stuff as opposed to constantly quoting stuff like Carl Stalling. But according to the cue sheet, it says that Powerhouse is used in this cartoon. And I've heard Powerhouse a million times, and you've heard Powerhouse a million times, and you and I did not pick up any hint of Powerhouse in this cartoon.
I didn't hear it either, unless it was something like the Rigoletto gag in that one Daffy and Porky short, where it's like, now guess this song. It's like one note. It's like, oh yeah, it's that. No, that's it. If you guys did hear it and we missed it, and remember, man, he's the music expert, so here's your chance to make him go all red-faced. No, there might have been some real obscure little passage of music that's just there and we just both missed it. You know, we're only human, so let us know in the comments. In the next shot, there's a very long file. I mean, they're still using filing cabinets in the future, and, you know, it's not even digitized, so, you know, it's a nice little charming thing once again. So they see what the crook looks like, which is, of course, Mother Macree, but it's actually George Mother Macree file, and they put it inside a machine. And what does it say on this machine? To locate known criminals, push designated button. And I'm sure the police would love to use such a machine now, right?
Yeah.
Insert crusty groan right there. But there's a few names here. You've got John Burton, you've got Ted Pierce, who was writer of this, Mel Blanc, voice actor, of course. C.M. Jones, which is Charles Martin Jones, so Chuck Jones. Eddie Seltzer is a producer. Norman Murray, he was in charge of the shorts division at the time for Warner Brothers. I just like the fact that it all just in-jokes, but no, there's going to be a button for Mother Macree, just happens to be there.
I'm kind of sad that some of his aliases are not Rory Bellows or Homer S. Fong.
Yes, Homer S. Fong, love that. And another 50s reference, and yet in space, is Elsa's Blast-In, so like a drive-in diner. I mean, obviously diners are still around, but the drive-ins were especially popular in the 50s, so again, it's, you know, alluding to that. And I like how it's a 3-capsule dinner. So, you know, isn't that appetizing? Better than chicken, right?
Beats that. And speaking of the menu, you could do bologna, Swiss cheese, tuna fish, pastrami, jelly. That's weird. It's like you have meat and fish and then jelly. What a segue. Bread, you got white bread, whole wheat, rye, pumpernickel. Ooh, pumpernickel French bread. I haven't had that in a while. And dressings, you got mustard, mayonnaise, butter, relish, and oleo, which I've heard of before, but I don't remember what. Do you know what that is?
It's margarine, I believe. Sure, from this list, what I would personally have. Maybe tuna fish on rye with mayonnaise.
Yeah, I'd say the same. I would do tuna on probably whole wheat with, mayo. Because bologna, I don't care for. I don't eat cheese. Pastrami, unless I get it at Katz Deli in New York. They got really good pastrami. They're expensive as all heck, but really good. And jelly, it's like, where's the peanut butter? There's no point. I mean, actually, I take that back, because when I was a kid, my dad used to buy a lot of pumpernickel bread, and I would have pumpernickel with jelly with butter. Like, I would have one slice of bread with a little bit of butter and the other slice with jelly, and I would just like eat the two slices separately, like one with the jelly, one with the butter, on pumpernickel bread in particular. Wow, I haven't done that in years.
This is probably my favorite example of the whole over-narration thing, when they arrive and realize that they just missed the bandit. So the narration is like 107, he left the blast-in. 108, we arrived at the blast-in, and our deductions later proved that we had just missed him by 1 minute. 109, we set out in pursuit. You don't need all of that. That's why I love love it. It's so good.
We didn't have much time. He was a notoriously fast eater. 107, he left the blast in. 108, we arrived at the blast in. Our deductions later proved that we had missed him by 1 minute. 109, we set out in pursuit.
And they end up pursuing the crook. We see Good Rumor, which is based off of the Good Humor ice cream. I wish I could have some ice cream, you know. That would be nice.
Ice cream.
And another 1950s reference. We see the Universe Premiere Stratosphere Theatre. So that's a play on the fact that theatres were trying all sorts of tricks to bring people back to the theatre because television was eating into their profits a lot. So they'll try gimmicks like 3D, but they'll also try things like CinemaScope, Cinerama, Technorama, like all sorts of big screen formats, hence why everything looks so big there, the Stratosphere. But the reference there, I'm not sure of. And I even asked our mutual friend, Devin Baxter, who's a noted animation historian, did he have any ideas? Now, Mary Ann Foster, we could not think of anything. And we've come to the conclusion it was either a staff member at the time that we don't know of, or it could be someone related to either Don Foster or Warren Foster, who were there at certain times. Maybe a partner. We don't know who Warren Foster's wife, what her name was. I don't know. Big mystery. So yeah, if anyone has an idea, let us know in the comments. Or was it Upper Rising Starlet at the time? Because that's a common name. I tried everything, but no, I couldn't get an answer.
The mystery remains.
The mystery remains. I do look all this stuff up and I do ask if I don't know. This one's a bit of a mystery, and Paul Dini in his audio commentary doesn't mention it either. Paul, if you're listening, I'm disappointed in you. I'm sorry. No, it's a great commentary track. If you get that set I was mentioning earlier, definitely listen to Paul Dini. He's wonderful to hear from. We get the usual, stop slow traffic thingy, which makes no sense if you really think about it, but I love it anyway. And we get to the whole thing involving smog. And just so people are aware, because they may not be. I mean, I don't live in LA, and even I don't know this, but freeways were built all over the place in LA. Their public transportation was mostly torn down, heaps of cars around, which led to the rise of a lot of smog, and it was known as the smog capital of the world. And people watching this in LA would have probably gotten a kick out of it. It's like, yeah, that's us. Yeah. We traded our wonderfully functioning public transportation system for the freeway system, which is always choked up nowadays.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, I was only in LA once, and that was for a month, and I got to experience how wonderful I thought traffic was bad in New York, but woof, LA is... Then again, in New York, you have the subway system and all that, but LA scared me a bit. I mean, I wasn't driving. Other people were driving. I was like, woof, this is kind of rough.
Just watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit. You'll know what happened.
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen that one in a while. I got to revisit that film.
Yeah, pretty much what happens in that film actually happened, except for, the cartoons. Everything else actually did happen. Anyway, they ended up capturing the Macree, and he's saying, I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing. Like I said, I didn't do nothing.
All right, Macree. We know you're in there. Come on out. Like all criminals, he had an elaborate alibi prepared.
I didn't do nothing. Like I said, I didn't do nothing.
We see the next shot of outside the courthouse, the Ultra Superior Court. And I love this background, especially that wonderful modern design of the Lady Justice. The case was brought to trial in the Superior Court, the Department of Astral Justice. As a result of this trial, the two arresting officers were sentenced to 20 years for false arrest. Wow. So you can tell this is a work of fiction because arresting officers being imprisoned for many, many years for false imprisonment, that doesn't happen often.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Spicy take.
Oh, wait, sorry, it's 30 years. Like I said. 30 years. And I love how Porky's mouth is the only thing that's animated in that shot. And yeah, the case is closed. So, right there.
See, right there, that final shot of Daffy and Porky, I should get that framed somewhere. It's like, that's such a great still, the two of them. That's how we look when we're recording, just like completely miserable with cigarettes in our mouths.
That's right. But as for this short, I love this one because of what it's actually parodying. And I don't know if people will enjoy it as much if they don't know what it's parodying, but I love this one. I love the attitude about it, just the deadpan expressions, the limited animation for the most part, especially with the walk cycles, the hand movements, and just the overall style of it. Plus, it's funny. The over-narration of it is great. It even got a very unexpected ending as well, which I thought was rather dark, actually, if you really think about it. I mean, how many times have they arrested the wrong people up until this point? And to get such a prison sentence, they would have had to have done something bad before, you would think. But anyway, this one gets 9 out of 10. I love this one. It's one of my favorites of the 1950s Chuck Jones's, especially on Porky and Daffy. So, yeah. What about you?
I liked it, maybe not as much as you did, but now hearing you explain it and like certain things that I didn't catch up on, you just brought up right now that there was some of those limited animation parts and like certain poses out of Porky and Daffy. I don't remember seeing those specific poses or specific designs in these characters that caught my attention visually. So hearing you talk about it definitely made me appreciate it more. I think another viewing would make me confirm even more that it's better than what I thought it was. I'd give it an 8 out of 10.
That's fair. But I'm actually curious, for those of you who have not seen any of those shows this is parodying, what you would rate this compared to those who do know about the TV shows and what you would rate this one. So let me know in the comments below. But until next time, me and my good friend Monday, well, we've just been arrested for committing a lot of crimes, saying too many Simpsons quotes throughout the years, and I think people have been saying we deserve to go to prison for that. So I guess, yeah, we're going to start our sentence. So I guess it's what, 20 years?
Gratuitous nerdiness. Say that 5 times fast. That's our biggest crime.
I thought you were going to say gratuitous nudity. That was part of the sentencing anyway, so, you know, shake, shake, shake.
This is not your 138th. I've done more than 130 with you, so this is definitely not 138 for you. You're definitely up there, yeah, in the 700.
Yes, shake, shake, shake. But that will do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.
Chicken.
Department of Astral Justice. As a result of this trial, the 2 arresting officers were sentenced to 20 years for false arrest.
It's 30 years. Like I said, 30 years.